alarm for us to get on the bus.
Finally, we're going to the ship. As soon as we arrive, we will tell you how we continue for the embarkation. Please then don't forget to take all your belongings with you. Just 5 minutes drive, yeah, to the entrance to the port.
And this is 2023.
check how you're.
ಕಡೆ ನಿಂದ್ರೋಣಲ್ಲೇ ನನ್ನ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು Thank you.
Welcome.
Mama, wait. 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 Okay, cool. Come.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you. ಅಮೂಲ್ಯ ಸೇನ್ ಸ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅದ ನಮ್ದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಗು ಓಕೆ ವಾ ನೋಡಲ್ಲೇ ಹಾಂ ವಾವ್ ಮಾ ನಾ ಲೈಫ್ ಬಂದ್ಗೆ ಯಾರ್ ವಾ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಿಡಿಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ
Female.
I think you can just sit down. You don't have to put them on just yet. But I need your phone number. So, what's the name? He's going to be coming live. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. Me?
Been married. Also, she got separated.
Hi, can I have your cabin number, please?
Color on this thing, they're a little orange to me.
What's your cabin number, please?
Hi. Yeah.
Yellow?
Oh, you're yellow.
Yellow, I would need you in this section and red.
We'll be in full call.
What's your cabin number? Zero. What's the zero? Alan.
Yeah, there he is. Hey.
I show you in a second.
And a really exciting holiday with us on board the Ajit'sMusic. For your comfort, for today, we are decided to do the safety briefing at the expedition lounge, but during the real emergency, you will proceed to your master station, which are located on the deck 6, port and starboard side. So, now we will watch together a safety video, and thereafter I will provide you more information about the safety on board the ship. Just a moment, we have the sound technical issues. We need a sound, we need support.
Before we depart, I'd like to take you on a mandatory safety drill in compliance with maritime law and the Safety of Life at Sea Convention. It's nothing to be alarmed about, just a few short items to prepare you for the unexpected. Ready? Let's go. In the case of a fire, activate the fire alarm. If you encounter smoke, stay low to the floor and follow the signs. In the event that someone falls overboard, throw a life buoy, shout man overboard, and inform the nearest crew member. Each cabin is equipped with an emergency alarm cord. In the case of an emergency, gently pull and we'll send someone to assist. The expedition is a non-smoking vessel, so no smoking. Unless you're on the smoking deck, located outside the Polar Bear Bar. During your stay aboard the expedition, you'll hear several announcements through the ship's public address system. Most of these won't concern you. One that will is the ship's emergency signal. 7 short tones followed by 1 long sustained tone. It sounds like this. Upon hearing this signal, return immediately to your cabin to retrieve your life jacket. You'll find it under your bed. There may be warm clothing and medication you may need. Take your life jacket and proceed to your muster station. You'll find a map to your muster station located on the back of your door. If you don't have time to get to your cabin, proceed directly to your muster station. We'll have extra life jackets waiting for you there. En route to your muster station, your expedition staff will be on hand to assist you. Once there, station leaders will conduct roll call to ensure that all travelers are present. Then the captain will be notified that all passengers have been mustered. Should the captain determine that the ship must be abandoned, a verbal abandoned ship command will be repeated 3 times over the public address system. Once this command has been given, all passengers should enter their lifeboats in a safe and orderly manner. So that's that. You've officially been briefed. Any other questions, and your expedition staff will be happy to assist you. Thanks again for choosing G Adventures, and enjoy the ride.
Only the one correction, that's what I like to do for this video. Just for this cruise, we changed the location of our life jackets. They are not anymore under the bed as you saw it on the video. There is not the wardrobe, so you can open your locker and it will be at the top. So you will see that I'm assigned, which will be show the location of your life jacket. So once we're finished with the video, I just like to point a few more safety items which are distributed along the ship. So as you see, the ship is equipped by the sprinkler and the fire detection system. So in case of the fire, the sprinkler system will be activated. This is the sprinkler head. So I'm kindly asking you, do not to obstruct or hand something on this kind of the appliances. Brake and be careful with that. So the fire detection system, this is how we will detect the smoke. So please be patient on that. About this fire screen doors, it is also important. In case of the fire on board, the fire screen doors will be closed automatically, and it may happen that they will block your route. Please be aware that these doors are really heavy, but they can be opened by the hand. Once you will pass, please be sure the door is properly closed behind you. The restricted areas. So some areas on the ship are designed as crew only or restricted areas. So we are kindly asking our guests to follow that notices and do not enter in these restricted areas. Yeah, but I mean like that, you need a special permission actually. So in case of the rough seas, that's what we can really expect in the Drake Passage. My favorite slide actually. So we always, from time to time, we are really expecting the rough seas. So they're not so calm as we wish during the cruise. So please take care when the ship is rolling and pitching, and make use the handrails and the alleyways and the stairways, and please always have your one free hand to keep to the strong point on the ship. In addition, please add extra precaution once passing by any door, and please be aware once the ship is moving or rolling, it can be closed and slammed, so please be careful of your fingers. In addition, we are asking our guests to, we are asking our guests to use not the flip-flops while walking around the ship on outside decks, especially once the slippery or wet, and especially once it's raining or just the deck crew is washing the open decks. So the slippers are not allowed on any public spaces except of your cabins. In addition, actually it's like obvious, but never sit on the ship side rails. It is really dangerous. We don't like to do the man overboard drill, believe me. And in addition to the rough seas, please take care to take the seasickness pills before we start. It's always better to do it in advance. Next, deck 7 forward. That's the location that you will do the nice photos for your Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But we need to make a few precautions once you're there. The yellow lines. Why so? So on the deck 7 we have lots of the antennas and the radars. So we are asking our guests not to stay outside of the yellow painted areas marked on deck, because we have lots of the radiation over there. So please keep clear of. About the life-saving appliances, so we have the total of 4 lifeboats, 51% each, and in addition, on the deck 4 aft, we have the 6 more life rafts, which are 25% each. What I'd like to highlight, if you are feeling that you need any assistance, please inform your cabin steward or just come to the reception, and we're always happy to explain or clarify and assist with you. Now we will do the demonstration. We need to support our best expedition staff. Let's welcome him. So he will show us how to dress the survival suit or immersion suit, and thereafter we will do the life jacket. So, survival suit. They're designed for the extreme weather conditions. Let me do the intro. We have enough. So we have enough survival suits for all the guests and crew. So in case of the emergency, we will bring them to the lifeboat stations. So, and now we will start with this. So, first, he takes inside the legs, the suit. And actually, if you have this opportunity not to take off your shoes, please do that. So, because we need to save the heat. Once the leg guards inside, he will adjust the velcros around the ankles. The next one, he will put the hood over his head and slide the arms inside. So the next step is really important. So I just like to highlight your attention about the zipper. This is not the usual zipper, this is the watertight zipper, so it will be much more harder to close it. So in order to do that, you need to have the one hand down and hold it firmly pulled by the other hand. So, but once he's pulling, once you'll always get on the top of your chin, you need to do the chin up, yeah. He did the chin up, close it properly, the zipper, and thereafter, he will close the one more velcro. It is good that you care of the rest of the guests or crew, so especially if you are helping some of the guys. So always assist him. Yeah, because actually it's not so easy, because you see the hands, just wave. Huh? Yeah, it's not so easy, but this is how the design of our immersion suit. So he will close over here. This strap is designed to hold him firmly in case if you need to hold him inside of any kind of the survival trap. A part of that, what he has here, he has the whistle and the light. The light will be automatically activated once you will get in the water, but better to avoid it. So we will remove now the immersion suit and we will do. It's good that it's visible that he's shy by the. We need one more video once he's struggling. So the life jacket. No worries. I mean, like, just take a look how he's struggling. Thereafter, we will do the dressing for all the guests. We will ask the assistance of the rest of the crew and believe that we will do the proper dressing. So just take a look first.
Take a look first and then we may go together.
Yeah. So hold the life jacket with the fastener facing forward. Pass your left arm through the loop. After that, bring the strap around your waist. You can just put over the head. Put the strap around your waist. Do not forget to pass through the loop. You need to do the magic click. That's what we need. So once the click is done, you need to tie it properly. So we tie the strap and secure all loose ends. Okay, so the waist is secure now, and the next, my favorite strap, is yellow strap. So the yellow strap will be passed between the legs. So you need to connect the small buckle. Yeah, one more click, adjust the length, and secure the loose ends. So about the life jacket, we have the retroreflective tape, which will be visible at night. The same life jacket light, which will be activated once you will get in the water. Here we have the body line inside and a whistle. So now we will do the dressing of the life jackets. I will ask the assistance of the colleagues. So we will clarify that each of you will take a proper time.
So the tour was started Jerusalem and finished in Tel Aviv. The Jerusalem to Jordan to Tel Aviv. Not really bad.
Okay.
I fully understand.
You guys can follow me.
Come closer, come closer, come closer. Safety, I'm the lifeboat commander of the lifeboat number 2. So, once you will hear the abandoned ship drill, yeah, so the abandoned ship signal, so you need to proceed to your master station. So, in order not to get confused, which is your lifeboat and what is your master station, you'll have your life jackets. Your life jackets you will find out yellow squares. Yellow squares are always corresponding to the color which is on the lifeboat. You will never get confused. So once you hear the abandoned ship, you need to proceed to your cabin, pick up the medicines, pick up the warm clothes.
Yes, ನಮ್ಮ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸರಿ, ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಶೂಟ್ ಶಂಪು ಗಿಂಪು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಯಾರಿಟ್ಟಾರೋ
Okay.
ವಾ दोनों ऑपरेटर है दोनों ऑपरेटर हाँ Pipi, I'm going up.
व्यवस्थित नको.
Hello, normal. Yes, he started mama. Bridge ಮುಂದದಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದನ ಕತ್ತರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ 6ಕ್ಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನೀನು ಡೈರಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಬರೀಬೇಕು ನೀನು
ಸರಿದಲ್ಲ ಒಳ್ಳೆ
ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಜೋಗ್ರಫಿ
ಸ್ನೋ
ಏನು
ಸ್ನೋ
ಏನು
ಸ್ನೋ ಬೆಳೀತದ
ಹೌದು
ಏನು
ಹಾಂ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್
ಇದು ನೋಡ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ನೋ
ಓಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ನೀನು ನೋ ಹೌದಾ ನಾನು ಬಾಯಾಗೆ ಬಿತ್ತು
That's good. A little bit more. All right. How about that? This is way more bright-eyed, bushy-tailed faces than I was expecting to see at this point in the day today, and that is because we have made our way well ahead of that storm we were so worried about, and the seas are considerably smoother than expected. Yeah, woohoo indeed. So we have one person that we can really thank for that, and that person is here to welcome you to this voyage. I have had the privilege of working with the captain of this ship for several years now, and I've met no man who shares an equal caliber of sheer experience and a mariner's knowledge as a passion to adventure and bringing all of you to see Antarctica. And with that, I would love to introduce you to our captain, Gilles Cadet.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you tonight on behalf of the whole expedition family. My name is Gilles. I come from Brittany. It's a French region on the Atlantic coast. I grew up in a sailor family, so at the age of 10 years old I was sailing with my mom, mainly in Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and at the age of 16 I finally have my seaman's book, and since that time I enjoy my life all over the seven seas. So in 2015 I took the privilege and opportunity to join this family, the G Expedition. This beautiful ship was built in Denmark in 1972. Many people said, oh, it's an old ship, an old lady. I said, no, she's still younger than me, so I think she will sail many years, I hope. So she was built as a Baltic ferry, so she was already in ice since the beginning, prior its conversion to the expedition vessel in 2009. We have 71 crew members actually on board, 16 nationality, and you are 130 guests, 20 nationality. So it's really citizens from all over the world, and this is what I love on this ship, the magic of this ship, to have citizens from everywhere. So it's a great honor for me to serve on this ship. So tonight I will ask the head of the department to come on scene with me to celebrate this important event. We are at the gates of Antarctica, and I think, I don't know if many of you already went in this area, but you will see it's a magic land, and we love this land all together. So I will ask the chief engineer to join me on scene. He is in charge of the technical department. He joined the ship in 2015 with me, and as a project manager, he rebuilt completely the engine, so now the engine are totally renewed, and we were the first ship to obtain the Polar Code certificate due to the good job of the chief engineer, so it's a great honor for me to sail with him. The second in command is from the Philippines, and he's in charge of the security, safety, in charge of the deck department, of course, and he is doing this job for so many years. We are working together since 2006, so it's really helpful to have this gentleman with me and on scene. So I will ask the staff captain to join me, please. Simon Saguta from Philippines. And you will see him every day at the mudroom. He's in charge of your safety with all the deck department, so you will see him with to be with you at all the landing. He will be with you. He's a drone pilot as well. He's very proud. No, it's quite important. Yeah, thank you. And the third gentleman, of course, you know him already. He is in charge of your comfort. He is in charge of the big department on board. You have, I think, almost 36 people. And he's hotel manager, Laurence Annonciation de Jesus from Philippines as well. And this gentleman is on board since the beginning, since 2009. So he's an expert in his job, and he loves his job also. So It's good to understand. And if we are here tonight, it's in front of you tonight is because of Tim and a gentleman. They are experts in everything regarding the polar region, plants, animals, historic figures. They are always eager to share their infectious passion of the polar region, and it's for all of us a great honor to serve on this ship with this fantastic team. We are working together for so many years, and so it's for me a great pleasure every day to have them on board. So I will ask Matt if you come to join us for this toast. I think it's time for a nice toast, a welcome toast, the success of your expedition. And after I will give the microphone to Matt, simply he will explain you where we are going tomorrow, and I hope that we are going in the same direction, because it can change many times. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board to the success of your expedition. Welcome on board, and you are welcome on a bridge at any time. So do not hesitate to pass to see our navigation officers. They are welcome. So thank you to be on board, and welcome. Salut. Santé. Salut. Cheers. Yeah, to the success.
Thank you very much.
Look at that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I came prepared this time, and I actually had my PowerPoint open. So there we go. And I'm sure you're all eager to hear about the plans that we have moving forward. So yes, as I mentioned already, the weather is substantially better than we originally anticipated, and these are the times where I'm very happily proven wrong. And this is just because of a couple things. Firstly, Captain Gilles is amazing at anticipating these systems, and he always tries to keep us right at the front of the force of the system. And while simultaneously doing so, the system itself transitioned further northwards than anticipated. Here, I'll bring my laser pointer up. So you can see how it's moving very much far north here, and then as it hits mainland, it starts coming back down to the south, and it went so far north that it's losing energy, and you can see this kind of jet stream making its way towards Antarctica, and that has lost a ton of energy by the time it reaches us. So this is no longer what we anticipated, a roaring 2 out of 10, but we've never really exceeded a 1 out of 10 here. And my apologies to those of you who are still feeling the motion of the ocean. Like I mentioned yesterday, if the ship is rocking just a little bit, you may start to feel it, but I am seeing lots of bright eyes here in the lounge, so I'm quite happy for that. So tomorrow, what do we have planned for you? Well, we need to prepare you for Antarctica. So I mentioned this yesterday. We have our mandatory briefings, and we need to start bright and early at 9:15 a.m. So make sure that you have a little bit of time for breakfast, which starts at 8 a.m. And very shortly after breakfast, we'll be calling you down into the lounge for 2 mandatory briefings. The first one being our biosecurity and IATO briefing, telling you all about the conservation that is required and the practices that is required to responsibly visit a place like Antarctica. And then secondarily would be our Zodiac briefing. Like I mentioned, we do not have any tourism infrastructure in Antarctica other than our ship. We also have a whole fleet. For those of you who are out on deck today, you would have seen them stacked on the top of the ship of Zodiacs. And we're going to tell you how we use those Zodiacs and how to safely enter and exit those Zodiacs. So 2 mandatory briefings. Following the briefings, we'll have the actual biosecurity, where we're going to go through your outerwear to ensure that we are not risking bringing any organic material, any foreign biology, particularly seeds, to Antarctica. There's a real concern with that, especially on the northern edges of the Antarctic Peninsula. So what this entails is we're only concerned with your outermost layers, and only if they've been used anywhere other than this ship and Antarctica. So we don't need to see your red parkas. Those are brand new out of the package and on the ship only. So we're not concerned with your parkas, and we're not concerned with your undergarments either, because those should hopefully not be exposed to the Antarctic ecosystem. So just gloves, hats, backpacks, camera bags, walking sticks. We don't need to see your shoes because you'll only ever be using the boots that we provide, and we go through our own biosecurity with those boots before we distribute them to you. And we're especially concerned with Velcro. So if you want to bring a well-traveled pack with you, I would suggest that you save yourself a little bit of the time that's going to take here at Biosecurity, and therefore save us, the staff, some time as well, and check your pockets and check your Velcros in particular for grasses, seeds, dirts, things like this. If we cannot reasonably clean that gear, and we only do biosecurity once on this ship because it's such a massive endeavor, we will not accept it to be used off of this ship. So go through your stuff just preemptively, maybe this evening, give it a quick once over. If it's absolutely packed with grasses and seeds in the Velcro, just take a pick or something, get the bulk of it out, and then we'll do the rest tomorrow. Okay, so can anyone hear there's a little bit of excitement in my voice? I don't know, can you? Can you pick it up? I am really excited. We are making exceptional time across the Drake's Passage. Even though we have these seas, if you look out your windows right now, you can see they're a following sea. We're actually getting pushed to Antarctica, and as we get pushed along, the seas are calming, our speed is increasing, and we are planning, no promises, to try and actually land in Antarctica tomorrow afternoon. Yeah. This was previously something that was not really possible for most ships. Our ship is one of the fastest in the entire industry after she had her engines replaced. And if you want to hear all about that incredible effort that it took, go to the bridge, talk to our Captain Gilles. I can't do the effort that it was to replace the engines any justice here on stage for you now. But with those replacements, fuel efficiency, emissions, everything reached peak efficiency, and we also gained some speed. So we've outrun the storm, and it looks like we might be arriving in Antarctica earlier than expected. So this area that you see here is a chain of islands, and they are the northernmost reaches of the Antarctic Peninsula, known as the South Shetland Islands, which means they are very exposed to that same notorious weather that the Drake's Passage is so infamous for. So sometimes when we arrive here, we simply can't operate because there is just so much swell and so much wind. But these colors, these are the good colors. We're seeing lots of greens and blues, which gives us a lot of confidence that we should be able to make something work. Weather, ice, and ETAs considered. So the area we're planning is called Yankee Harbor. And what can we see at Yankee Harbor? It is a relatively enclosed walking area, defined by this very interesting kind of checkmark shaped spit here. And it has Gen 2 penguins. So we have our first opportunity of seeing some penguins tomorrow. Also some historic artifacts. And while this photo here does include some kayaking, and I know the question will be asked, this is a 10 out of 10 for weather, and because the South Shetlands are fairly exposed, we don't normally expect to kayak in the South Shetlands. That said, if we have near perfect conditions, we will consider it, and kayakers, you'll all be informed of that decision tomorrow. But otherwise, I wouldn't expect to kayak tomorrow without first checking how good the conditions really are. So this is some of the scene we should be seeing at this time of year. Some snow-covered ground still, and lots of Gentoo penguins who will be busily building their nests, stealing pebbles from one another, and also incubating their eggs. If we're very lucky, we can find one of the least or less commonly seen seals of Antarctica, which would be the southern elephant seal. It does take a little bit of luck, but this is one of the beaches that they are known to be found at. And they are the largest seal on the planet. You can see the walking area is going to consist of snow and loose cobble, and we don't have any extended hikes or climbs, so walking here at this landing site should be relatively simple compared to many other landings that we can provide later on in the voyage. That said, just the same way that I say these are pretty calm seas, relatively simple is different for some than others. You're going to have to get used to your boots, you're going to have to get used to the uneven terrain, and you're going to have to get used to walking in snow as well. So we're going to take things really slow and easy so you can get used to your visit to Antarctica. We have something called zodiac groups, and we're going to assign you your zodiac groups tomorrow during the mandatory briefings. At that time, you will understand how we call you off of the ship, because if you all come down to the shell doors to load onto our 10 passenger Zodiacs at the same time, you're going to spend a huge amount of time in your gear sweating inside the ship. So we call you down in quarters, and those quarters are called the Zodiac groups, and they all have names of famous wildlife in Antarctica. So the Zodiac groups, even though you don't know which one you're assigned to yet, will be Albatross, Gentoo,
Cabin 214 main. Perfect. Cabin 219 Gary. There you go. Cabin 309 Jones. Not here.
Alright, runners, 309 Jones.
We get you eventually. Cabin 321 Elias. Here, perfect. You sneaked in. No. Okay, cabin 320 Watts Elizabeth. There you go. 329 Lim. Three, 2, 6 Lazarus. 338. Can't pronounce the name. Grintlet. Perfect, you're here, thank you. I'm sorry. And that's it.
And then
415 Andrew.
As you can see, we take this very seriously. And it's for your own benefit as well, because we are IATO operators, so the International Association of Antarctic Tour Operators, and this is a treaty organization which manages tourism to Antarctica in order to preserve Antarctica. All of you want to come to this place because it is a pristine wilderness area with an incredible history, and that would not remain very long if it wasn't responsibly managed. So IATO sets these regulations for us and ensures that as visitors to Antarctica, we can also act as ambassadors to Antarctica. And because the treaty organizations cannot police the entirety of the continent, they've actually adopted the tourism industry ourselves as the rangers and ambassadors for Antarctica. So when we see other organizations or visitors to Antarctica Antarctica breaking treaty law or breaking IATO law, we're the ones who report it, and then it's up to the treaty parties to act on it. There is no other people down here observing us operating. So that's why you can see we've become rather militant, because it is our responsibility to do so, and if we are not responsible in that way, we are no longer IATO members, and we can no longer bring this ship to Antarctica. So everything really hinges on this. So as I mentioned already, Antarctica is unique. It's one of the most perfectly preserved regions on the planet, and we want to keep it that way. It's not only unique in its landscape, which is incredibly beautiful, but it's also unique in its ecosystems. Antarctica has a fairly simple ecosystem comprising of penguins and many seabirds, whales, and pinnipeds being our seals, and they're all extremely heavily reliant on one another. It is a very well-structured food chain, and it all goes down to what Sarah has told us a little bit, which is our krill and our phytoplankton as well. So with such a specific structure to an ecosystem, it means that each individual part of that ecosystem is extremely important, and if you remove that part, the system begins to collapse. So that's why it's extremely unique in its structure. So we mentioned the Antarctic Treaty. Since 1959, Antarctica has been a designated area for peace and science. In addition to peace and science, tourism fits within those lines, and also within those lines, exploration. So those are all of the things that we are doing in Antarctica. And it was in 1991 that IATO was formed in order to better manage visitation and tourism in Antarctica. So we're going to be promoting all IATO practices throughout our voyage. Everything that I tell you about what we can and cannot do throughout this voyage is determined by IATO in cooperation with the tourism industry, because we're the ones actually down here observing the impacts of tourism. So we give them regular updates, and then they set new regulations for how to operate in Antarctica. This is especially true in years such as this one, where we've been experiencing avian influenza, and we'll get to that in a moment. IATO provides us with this briefing that I'm giving you right now, and they also provide you with lots more literature, some of the pamphlets that you've been handed here, and then all over outside of the lounge on the walls, and especially down in the mudroom where you gear up for each landing, you'll see more of this literature, and I welcome you to familiarize yourself with it. However, this is all the stuff that we, the guides, are trained and certified in, so we will also be regularly familiarizing you with proper practices in Antarctica. So we thank you for choosing to travel with an IATO member operator. The majority of all tourism falls under IATO, although there are some what you'd call privateers as well, and they are harder and fewer to come by year after year. So this is becoming less relevant, and we are heavily reliant on IATO because they provide us with briefings like this and certain systems that actually maximize your experience in Antarctica as well. So we're a community of expedition staff, and when a site becomes no longer safe to visit, or the wildlife are not at that site for that particular year, we all report on it, and we don't go and find out firsthand for ourselves, so that we can all take you to the best possible places to see in Antarctica, and that is updated essentially daily. So there's a huge benefit to being an IATO member operator. Antarctica is the largest wilderness area on Earth, and we are going to keep it that way. This one touches on a very personal note for me. There are times where you get the really happy-go-lucky, smiley guides like you see most of the time on the ship and during our operations, but we take the safety of the wildlife, the nature here, and of all of you very seriously, and when there is a risk of that safety being compromised, we ourselves become very serious as well. So if you hear us raising our voices, being very stern, it's not something to be taken personally. It's just because the information at that time is very important, and you need to understand immediately what it is that we're trying to communicate with you. Obviously, we're not going to do this in excess, and that's why we have these briefings to prepare you in advance, but there are times where you'll need to understand exactly what it is that we need you to do. And we're very well trained in making sure that you are communicated these things before you need to know. Some of it's common sense. Please do not allow any litter to go overboard into the ocean here. Obviously, we're really concerned about things that you have in your pockets. Actually, I think I have a good example right now. I have a terrible sweet tooth, and I have this little plastic wrapper in my pocket here, but my cell phone is also in my pocket here. If I'm out on deck, I want to take a picture, I pull my phone out, I have my phone in my hand, and that little piece of plastic drifts off into the ocean. So please be exceptionally vigilant in making sure that no garbage or waste makes it into our pristine Antarctic environment. And you can see as well, we don't sell water bottles or any plastic drink containers on board. We all give you reusable bottles and try to manage waste on board as best as is possible. Sustainable practices is one of our #1 priorities. The same goes for waste management with the ship itself. We are not dumping sewage in Antarctic waters, gray water. Everything is contained on the ship and goes through extremely stringent waste management protocols before we can handle it outside of Antarctic waters. And if you want to know more about how that is handled, it's something that we feel quite proud about. We meet, as far as global environmental standards, the highest possible standard on this ship. So when Gilles was explaining so proudly yesterday that with the cooperation of the chief engineer, we have reached the top standard of the Polar Code operating in Antarctica as well. So yeah, please secure your belongings, avoid anything being blown away. This is especially true with plastics, tissues, things like this. You cannot bring food ashore unless you need to bring it for medical purposes, in which case you need to inform the doctor in advance. But pretty much the only things you can bring ashore is water and then your personal belongings, cameras, jackets, and your waterproof outerwear. Fresh water, even though it's found abundantly in glacial ice and snow, freshwater pools are considered in far less abundance at a lot of our landing sites, especially at this time of year, and they do represent a very important area for much wildlife. So if you see large bodies of fresh water, which we will see at our landing this afternoon, Yankee Harbor, just don't walk into it and give it plenty of berth. This is an area where birds source fresh water, and it's also where they bathe themselves. So we don't want to disturb such an important area on shore. Same goes for meltwater streams. So after this briefing, we're going to go through biosecurity. We'll walk you through step by step. But it's not just this initial biosecurity that we're introducing you to, but actually between every single operation that we do every day, there's a smaller variant of biosecurity, and our primary focus is cleaning the underside of your boots to prevent any possible cross-contamination from one, particularly seal haul out or penguin rookery to another. We cannot say that we know exactly what potential contaminants or diseases, other than maybe avian influenza this year, can be transferred from one colony to another. But just because we don't know doesn't mean we shouldn't try not to be a vector for these diseases and contaminants. So we take it very seriously as well. And what that looks like is an IATO briefing, so this is not what we use on board. We have a much better and more sophisticated system down in our mudroom, which you'll be familiarized with in the days to come, including this afternoon. But pretty much we have boot brushes to break off all the large organic material, mud, penguin poop, which we call guano. That's awesome. Well, why don't we start a couple minutes early here and get this ball rolling. I'm sure you're really interested to hear what we have planned for you tomorrow. How did you enjoy the bonus landing at Yankee today? Oh, all right then, we can turn around. Let's go home. We saw penguins. Yeah, so Yankee is a really cool spot. I hope you all got to enjoy everything that has to offer. Elephant seals, really cool animal, not one that we're probably going to get a chance to see again. So I hope you all had some time to hang out with the little pups there and some of those bigger sub-adults that were down towards the end. If you have questions about them, Sarah, where are you? Put your hand in there. Sarah is your gal right there. She'll tell you everything you want to know about those animals. So, for tomorrow, I'll show you where we are roughly today. I know with all the pretty colors here. By the way, these are the good colors. We like blue and green. So here are the South Shetland Islands, a relatively young chain of islands that are rising due to volcanism on the Scotia Plate. Questions for Keith there. And this body of water is called the Bramsfield. And the crossing of the Bramsfield this evening, going into midnight, it's going to be about 80 nautical miles. So it's a long crossing, and that's why we were in such tight timings in order to get everyone onto the ship, get the anchor lifted, in order to make this bonus landing and still have time to cross the Bramsfield. We had to get going right away, and we made it on time. We are perfect for timing at this moment. So crossing the Bramsfield overnight, depending on the weather, looking at this now, pretty good. Nonetheless, it is an open body of water, so we should expect some gentle rolling by the ship. So prepare yourself for that, but nothing like we experienced in the Drake's Passage. This is the Antarctic Peninsula, and this is where we intend to spend the rest of our time during this voyage. And we want to get you overnight with this crossing of the Bramsfield into the early morning as far south as we can. So we hope to get a total of about 295 nautical miles covered before our morning's operation. So a big journey indeed. And what that's going to look like is this crossing of the Bramsfield Strait around the north side of Trinity and into this very well-known body of water here called the Gerlache Strait. And this is where we find the densest amounts of wildlife, glaciers, icebergs, and just all that Antarctic experience that you're really hoping to have. Some people told me today, well, this doesn't really look like what I saw in the brochure. And you're right. The South Shetland Islands, they're not what you see in the brochure. That immense landscape covered in ice with huge icebergs and large penguin colonies, that awaits you early tomorrow morning. When you wake up tomorrow morning, look out the window, head out onto the decks, and you will see that Antarctica that you're all waiting for, if there's no fog. So, we're aiming for an area called Useful Island. Very interesting to visit a place like this during the tourism era of Antarctica. The very namesake of Useful Island comes from the whaling era. It was a spot where whalers would look out over the Gerlache Strait and look for incoming whales, then sound the alarm, and then the ships would be launched and they would go out to catch these whales. So it was a very useful island for the whalers. It's also a really great spot to visit because of the incredible views that those whalers took advantage of, looking out over the Gerlache Strait. Almost every time that I've been to Useful Island, standing up at the upper viewpoint, I've seen whales from that viewpoint. So it's a very cool spot to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the whalers of old. The landing area is a rocky ledge, which is a fairly small and contained space. If you are not feeling like you want to climb the 100-meter climb up to the viewpoint, that is the place where you can stay and enjoy the penguins, no problem. Otherwise, for those of you who are interested in stretching your legs and traversing some slightly more difficult terrain, then you can take the short walk up to the viewpoint at the top of Useful Island. And you can turn back at any time. You can give it a try. If you find that the snow and ice is too slippery, you can always turn around. If you make your way back to the beach, we'll have Zodiacs there to take you for a cruise on your way back to the ship instead. So Useful Island has one flaw, given what a beautiful spot it is, and that it's out in the middle of the Gerlache Strait, which means it's relatively exposed. And tomorrow, it looks like a better day than ever to make an attempt for such a spectacular spot. We have really good low winds. So this is one of those times we could take advantage of one of our less visited but more rewarding locations in Antarctica. So the landings are rock, soft snow hiking. If it's cold, it'll be ice. If it's sunny and warm, it's going to be very slippery slush. So on an area like this, we actually hope for a little bit of cooler temperatures and overcast skies to make it easier for everybody. Amazing view over the Gerlache Strait, Gentoo penguins. Did anybody see that one chinstrap penguin wandering around? Yeah, wow, he really made the rounds, that one chinstrap penguin. If you want to know about him and the other penguins that you saw, of course, Lynn is going to be the one to answer your questions about all those penguins if you didn't already find her on shore. So that was just one chinstrap, but at Useful Island, we do have a chinstrap penguin colony, so we should get you some better opportunities to view and photograph our second species of brush-tail or Antarctic Peninsula penguin. The zodiac groups tomorrow will start with Gentoo, then it'll be humpbacks, leopards, and albatross to follow. What's very nice is in this area here, we have another landing that is very close in proximity. So once again, ice and weather permitting, we'll have a very short reposition of the ship over the afternoon during lunch, which means we're going to attempt to make some longer landings tomorrow to really maximize your time on shore, give some of you the option for those zodiac cruises. Also, if we find conditions on land for either Useful Island or our afternoon's location, George's Point, are not very conducive for those of you who are struggling to walk on slippery surfaces or uneven surfaces. If the weather is nice, then we'll also put a sign-up sheet at reception for a cruise-only boat, so you can experience these areas, see all the wildlife without having to actually step foot on the land and make those climbs to those viewpoints. Zodiac cruising is an excellent way to experience Antarctica. That said, we always try and give everybody the option to go on some sort of zodiac cruise, depending on how much time you spend on land. Today was a bit rushed, I know, but it shouldn't be that way moving forward. So this zodiac cruise only boat is specifically meant for those people who are going to feel like they will struggle more on land. Whereas for everybody else, you will not be missing out. You'll be going on the same zodiac cruise, but you will have the option to go on land as well. So when we say zodiac cruise only, it's for those who specifically do not want to go on land, where you will find more difficult terrain. So really need to reinforce that. Everybody does get to go cruising at the end. So yeah, George's Point, our afternoon operation, good zodiac cruising, a rocky landing, this area. If we were to say this landing site here was easy to moderate, in the morning it would be easy at the landing site itself, which is a smaller walking area, and definitely moderate to difficult for most to get up to the viewpoint. And then George's Point, the very landing itself is quite uneven and difficult to walk on, so I'll put that as a moderate landing across the board. It is another area where we can see nesting chinstrap penguins. In fact, we should have a much larger colony of chinstraps here than we do at Useful. And what's really cool about this location is there's actually two penguin colonies, the Gentoos and the chinstraps, and they've more or less merged. It's one of the only places we know of where you can see the two different species nesting together and where you can get them both in the same photograph. So it's a rare opportunity in that regard. So this is what the walking area looks like. It should be considerably less snowy at this time of year. And you can see it's a gentle slope here, but this will all be rock by this time of year. And once again, exceptional weather by Antarctica standards. Some of you have asked me how we predict the weather, or asked me about the weather tomorrow. And while I show you these charts here, the honest answer is we don't really know. Windy, the app that we use here, is a computer algorithm, and it's using all weather stations, even weather stations including our ship, around the world to predict global weather. So it gives us the big impression of the weather. And then when you are wherever you live, when you want to know what your local forecast is, you go to your local weather stations. There are no reliable local weather stations for the places that we go in Antarctica. So while we can get a great general impression when we arrive, the local weather may be greater than the larger global weather systems and will completely change the forecast to what I'm showing you now. However, as an overarching weather forecast, this is ideal. This is what we're hoping for, blues and greens. So the zodiac groups for George's Point, by the way, there's that sought after photo of the Gentoos and the chinstraps together. George's Point zodiac groups would be humpbacks, leopards, albatross, and Gentoos. Hands up if you signed up for camping. Oh man. Look around, everyone who didn't put your hand up, you now know who the crazy ones are. Well, when we have an ideal weather report, this is going to be the best attempt that we have to get you all on shore, those of you who signed up for camping, and to spend a night in the frigid ices of Antarctica. So, if we proceed through the day and we see that these really calm conditions prevail, then we will make an attempt to put you on land and set you up with your tents for the night. If that is the case, like everything on this ship, there will be lots of announcements leading up to it, so you'll be given plenty of warning in advance. We will have an earlier dinner so that we can get all of you ashore a little bit sooner, and that way you'll have enough time to set up your tents before it gets too late into the evening. So keep your fingers crossed, or not, depends if you've changed your mind by yet now, but keep your fingers crossed for that good weather, and keep your ears open for announcements, and we'll let you know if we plan to go camping in the evening. All right, before we move on to recap here, any questions about the operation tomorrow? Recap is for questions about penguins, but anything about the operation tomorrow and how it's all going to work? Was that a hand or a nose scratch? Oh, it's a nose scratch. Okay. Okay, so the first question is, what time is it going to be tomorrow? It really depends, because we have 295 miles to cross of varying speeds due to ice conditions and also due to weather. So what our routine, or rather our itinerary, will always be is that we plan to get you off the ship shortly after breakfast time, which will be 7 till 8. And then off the ship shortly after lunchtime, which will be 12 to 1. So yeah, then we, yes, yeah. So breakfast and keep your. So now that we're on operational days, this was not a technical operational day because it was a bonus landing. We've moved breakfast earlier because we need that time slot to maximize your time on shore. So for all days now moving forward, breakfast will be 7 till 8. And regrettably, it'll be yours truly who wakes you up before breakfast every morning to be sure that you have enough time to get ready before our morning operations on land. So you will get a lovely wake-up call from an uncaffeinated expedition leader first thing in the morning leading up to breakfast.
Shoot him now.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, spare me as well. Did I see another hand up there? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, that was an itchy elbow. Man, lots of itching and scratching. Any other questions here? No? All right. Yes, Annie. Will it be possible to go kayaking? You would love to go kayaking at Useful Island, wouldn't you? Again, looking at the overarching, the major forecast that we have here, it looks great for kayaking. That said, we'll have to wait and see until we arrive at each site and see what the local forecast is doing. But the plan is to get you out on the kayaks.
So there's a friendly reminder for the campers. So if you forget who is your tent buddy, and if you forget who which group you are in, I will put this list at the reception so you can check it.
Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, tent buddy to start. We'll see how you feel by the end of it. But okay. In that case, we'll hand over for recap. I've noticed a few questions in the question box there, so we'll save those until we have a nice stack, and then we'll go through all of them together. Does anyone have any questions about what we saw today, or just in general about Antarctica? Yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering if you know the temperature.
The temperature that it was today, we were sitting around 4 degrees Celsius. Yeah, which is a nice balmy temperature for us. Yeah.
What is it in Fahrenheit?
Oh, what is it in Fahrenheit? Who wants to do the Fahrenheit conversion for me?
40?
38 is what I'm being told here. I got like 10 different numbers from the crowd as well. We'll go with 38 though. Yes. All right. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to thank the Zodiac driver for the rescue at sea.
Oh, yes. That would be Marjana who gave you your rescue at sea there. No problem. Any other questions? Yeah. What happened to the Zodiac? It was just a standard stall. Pretty much what happens is that we have these fuel filters on the Zodiacs, and they keep clean fuel going into the engine itself to keep the engine running well over a long period of time. However, we get inconsistent fuel from Argentina itself for those engines. Yeah, Mauricio. So when we get dirty fuel, it's just inconsistent. I don't like the word dirty. Then those fuel filters will stop that fuel flow into the engines to protect the engine so the engine stalls, and that keeps those engines running over a long time. If we wanted to force start that engine, we still could, although it would do a lot of damage. So instead of force starting that engine, a quick tow in, change the filter, and they're right as rain again. Okay, any other questions? Yeah?
How many penguins do you think we saw today? Okay.
More than 3. How many penguins did we see today? I saw 1 chin strap. Lynn, how many Gentoos do you think we saw today?
4.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot. So it really depends on how well studied the landing site is. Some of them we can count the nesting pairs. However, I've never seen a population count for Yankee Harbor before. Lynn, do you have anything to add to that? No, not really. Yes, please do. And if you have more penguin questions, get her while she's up here.
There's always you can always make up something or give an educated kind of guess. And that little group that was in front of us, right in front of us, I think there were about 40 penguins altogether in just that little group. Because there were some single ones, so there'd be a pair. So you add in 2 and 2, another little quick count. So I reckon there were about 40. So then you take that 40 over there, that's 80, and another 40 over there, that's da-da-da-da-da. And I reckon there were over 1,000 penguins in that whole area. Because if you looked, you could see them in quite a big distance, quite far off. They really were. There could well easily have been altogether 1,000 penguins that were there. Some of them on nests, and there were quite a few that had 2 of them around the nest, and then there were quite a lot of single ones as well. So that's sort of an overall guess. But I'm going to be giving you a little talk after dinner. So maybe you could hold your questions till then, or if there's something absolutely important, let's talk about it now.
Any more penguin questions? Yeah? No, that's not a penguin question. All right. Yeah, so as per the daily oh, we do have.
Yeah, so I noticed that the penguins, they would get dirty and then they would wash up. Do they have that sense of, oh, I'm dirty, I need to wash up?
No, well that's really interesting, because if you looked at the penguins that were coming out of the water and going to the nests, they were beautifully clean. So those ones that were very dirty were exchanging. So the mate was coming in nice and clean, and the one that had been lying on the nest looking after the egg was getting all dirty and grubby and full of guano and mud. So they were changing over, so the dirty one was going back to the shore, going back to the sea to feed as well. And then what they do is they get into the water, squabble around, splash around, and get rid of all that dirty guano and mud and stuff that they've been sitting in, and then they'll go off fishing. Okay. Well, that would be a good idea, yeah.
All right, and if you haven't had a chance to look at the daily program yet, this is an excellent time to let you know that after dinner, keep your ears open for announcements. Lynn will be having her penguin lecture, so she'll go into the great details and the wonders of penguins after dinner, and she'll be happily answering any more questions that you have about them then. Do we have any other questions here? Yes, go ahead.
There was a metal structure that we saw today. Is that mainly meant for boats to not hit it, or does it serve another purpose?
You're talking about the modern metal structure.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's also some really rusty stuff there. As an aid to navigation. So it'd be a marker that you could find on a chart, and then you'd reference the chart to that marker, and typically in areas like this, they mark safe anchorage or a safe area to escape a storm for a smaller vessel. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to tell you a little bit about those elephant seals that we saw today.
Thank you very much. So we've seen today already quite a beautiful group of fin whales as well. I've heard from plenty of you about seeing some humpback whales, so keep that on and keep on watching out of the windows. But today I want to talk about seals. We had this beautiful seals. I was most of the time standing with a couple, with two of them. And if you only spent enough time with them, you could see that they were also moving. They were not only lying on the floor like lazy, but they were quite moving as well, sometimes even a little bit more, and you could see some open mouths. They were even watching who was kayaking today? They were watching you. You see that? So you have to be patient with seals sometimes, because seals are much better adapted on the ocean than they are on land. They will indeed come on land to reproduce and to molt. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit through their breeding cycle, through their reproductive cycle. Basically what happens much early in the season, around October, so the males come on land first, and they will establish a territory. After that, females will arrive, and they arrive fully pregnant, so they will give birth within a few days. Then they will be nursing their young, while the males keep on fighting for their harem. So they gather the females around them, and then they, just before the pups are weaned, they will mate again with these females. The adults then both go out to feed, and in this time of the season we had on the beach also young adults or sub-adults, maybe only 2 or 3 years old, at the beach molting. So in pictures, this would be what a large male looks like. So they can get much larger than this, and many of you were asking for where are they at the moment. They might be out feeding, but again, we don't see them on our Antarctic trips usually, so this is a bonus to see these elephant seals. Most of them actually breed in South Georgia. And the large males, we can see quite easily which one is the male and the females, because they have this very large nose, which we call proboscis. Thank you very much. And then you have the females with their pups, and this pup you can still tell it's very tiny. It's only a day old, or it has probably been born this very day, but they grow very fast. A pup will gain up to 5 kilos each day, while the females lose a lot of weight, because they will stay up to 3 weeks with these pups and nurse them all the time, so they lose up to 1/3 of their body weight, and they can weigh up to 800 kilos. So they lose a lot of weight and energy, and once the pups are weaned, we call them weaners, and they're adorable. And this is how they look like when they're freshly weaned. They will have some lanugo, some dark fur on them, and they will lose this as well, and then they look nice and bright and shiny. You might have seen some of these as well at the beach. But again, look at this size difference. Once they mate, this is also not very fun for the females, I believe, because the males can be up to 4 tons in weight, the females up to 800. This is the largest dimorphism in size that you get. And if you now think, well, it might be more fun for the males will have a harem up to 150 females. So it's also exhausting for them. Once they head out into the ocean and they manage to feed again, they will have to come back, because they change their fur once a year. And in case of the elephant seals, they do this in large patches, and you probably have seen that at least with one animal quite clearly. The next picture is not from the animal today, but I'll show you some other ones in a bit. We call it catastrophic molt. So you can see these large patches coming off their bodies. And this was from today, so you can see, especially in the one that is lying down, the new one would be the grayish, and the older one that is getting off is the lighter beige colored. And in this picture, do we still have the, yeah, you can even see, because you were asking me, I believe this is a female, because you can see the mammary gland. One is over here and one is over there, so it's not easy to see, but once they lie down you can tell. The other one I have no idea, but these were not a couple like a male and a female, because that's not how elephants work. And you can even see like some of the fur was coming out from her nose, and she was scratching all the time. So they gather in groups because of the molting, even if they might not know each other, because it helps them once they want to get rid of their fur. And they can gather in much bigger groups, and we call these wallows. And this next thing that I'm going to show you is not what I made up. This is from a guidebook. What is a wallow? A wallow is a pile of belching, farting, scratching, moaning seals, generally loafing around in their feces until their new coat is ready. So with this, I will have a whole lecture on seals, probably on our way back through the Drake. But if you have very urgent questions, come at any time. I was very glad to hear all your questions. There were some of them that I was not able to answer just yet. I think it was about the packed cell volume of seals, but I'll find out. So if you have any other questions now or later, go ahead. Yes?
Who's the predator for the...
So the question was about the predator of elephant seals. Orcas would also prey on seals, especially, for example, in the Falklands you get that very much. You get that also on the South American coast in Peninsula Valdez, you might have heard of that. So orcas, even in some areas, grab the seals from beaches. Apart from that, maybe leopard seals could feed on very young elephant seals, but they rather go for different seal species.
Even the male elephant seal, because they are big for the...
Orcas are able to hunt even male elephant seals. Yeah, I would say so. Orcas are very smart. Orcas are able to hunt adult blue whales. So if you can hunt that, you don't have anything else that you wouldn't be able to do. Apart from that, humans obviously are their biggest problem, but we'll get to that in another lecture. Yes?
What's the advantage of molting?
Say it again?
Why molting?
Why molting? So they want to stay waterproof. They will spend most of their lifetime, apart from breeding and molting, they will actually be out on sea. So maybe about 70-80% of their lifetime, once the breeding season is over, they will head out in the open ocean. They can even sleep during dives. So they will eventually come to the shore to rest a little bit, but they don't really have to. So in order to stay warm and waterproof, they have to molt once a year. Yes? Yes, all the seals have claws. That was the question. In elephant seals, they are true seals, which is one family of seals. You saw the claws in the front flippers, so they scratch like this. In other seals, the eared seals, for example, as in fur seals and sea lions, they scratch with their hind limbs. They have the claws out on the hind limbs, and they can move differently. But yes. Any other questions? No? Do we still have time for Keith? Yes, then we have another recap coming for you. Thank you very much.
Well, I trust that everybody had a good day. I'm about to destroy it. You've heard Matt often talk about waves and swells, and the question is, what is the distinction between the two? And Matt doesn't know, so I've decided that we brought in the local artist for help us out here a little, and so the idea is between waves and swells. These are natural features in the water system all the time, and so just as that we have, these can be wind driven, they can be ocean driven, but they are actually perfect sinusoidal waves. In theory. So in effect, a way to look at it is we would have a wave, something like this, and this is standard. There's two things in the natural physical world that interest me most. One is the whole idea of waves. They are everywhere. They're in electronics, they're there in radiation, they're in water, they're in everywhere that you can think. And the other is the idea of a sphere or a circle, and you can find that. But we describe these waves in a variety of ways. First, obviously, is the wavelength. That is the crest to crest or base to base of the wave, however you could want to do that. We usually call the wave depth, but in physics we would usually say half that, because half of that is the amplitude. We know it's a repeating cycle. And the other part of that is the period or the frequency, which is the number of waves that would pass through a given point at some time. If a wave has all of those three attributes the same, it is the same wave. If one of those attributes are displaced, more, greater, or less, then in effect it's an entirely different wave. In the water, at least, they're propagated. So when we have a wind move over the surface, you have a friction between two fluids, and the air is a fluid, the water is a fluid. They just have different densities. And if you then move them with respect to one another, if one is faster or if one is slower, then in effect you'll get an overturning. So even in a very, very slight wind, for example, you can imagine that all the individual layers are nice and parallel to each other and maintaining, but getting faster and faster they go up, and the waves are the same. And then eventually, if you get above a certain wind speed or a certain speed in the motion, it'll overturn, and then you start to get turbulence, which is the most common feature of these waves. So the swells, by and large, can occur from any form of oceanic disturbance. It could be a lithologic unit underneath the water. It could be water that's passing around a promontory. And so even in no wind, you might find these beautiful swells that the wavelengths are very large, but the amplitudes are very small. I've seen some of that at times, and it's just an amazing thing. It's absolutely still, and just feels like the ocean is breathing. It's a lovely sensation. But in effect, as you now start to move towards wind, when it's generating wind at the surface, so the swells of these deeper ocean are non-necessarily generated by the winds. They have an extremely long fetch, and that fetch is the distance over wind which a wind can blow without any form of obstruction in itself. Ocean waters are good for that. And then it's even under no wind we might still see. Two sorts of waves. Common when you get offshore is a wave of oscillation. It's a wave that is moving. It's a movement of the energy, not of mass. So if you're sitting there on a boat, the boat is just going up and down, up and down, up and down. So it's moving energy through the system, but not mass. And that's fairly common, that vertical motion only. The only other type is that we now have a wave of translation. When a wave starts to come on shore, what it will do is, if I go back to the other one there, it'll generate these circular flows. So there's a whole series of circular flows, all of which generate net up and down motion. But as they begin to move on shore, then these circles underneath begin to get elongated. And as it approaches the shore, the wave type of rides up on itself and starts to oversteepen and starts to collapse. And in effect, that's now what you might see, and if you see something like that, finally you start to see a breaker that comes in on shore, and now it has both energy and mass moving, goes up on shore, does all that shoreline erosion. When you all hear those pebbles and such like moving around, waves coming in, pulling it out, pulling it in, and so on. And that's where you start to get beaches themselves, and it depends on the current. There's all types of beaches. And I think just a couple of other waves. A rogue wave, imagine that you have a set of waves moving through the system, and another wave might catch up and ride up on behind another one of those waves, in which case now you have two waves, and so its altitude and its height is impressive. So they catch up and they'll generate a rogue wave, which is you hear about every now and again. The other wave that is fairly common is a tsunami, one that you might see like a subterranean fault moves or a eruption underneath, and it'll propagate a motion through the depth of the ocean. They may have a wavelength of 100 kilometers, huge, and it may only have an amplitude of maybe half a meter. In fact, if you're outshore on that, you would never even know that it passes on to you. But when it comes on shore, now it begins to draw back and now oversteepens that wave with an enormous mass of water that moves on shore, and they're obviously extremely destructive. So that's it. Answered all your questions on waves and such like. So, it's the best we could do. Any questions? That's it. I'm done. Yeah.
You're not going to fall asleep after a busy day, being outside and seeing your first penguin, so it was all quite exciting. And there were so many amazingly wonderful questions that you were all asking me when we were outside actually looking at the penguins, so I'm sure you know quite a lot. But there's it's quite a good idea just to go through the penguin lecture, talk to you about it, and then we'll still have loads more questions. There are lots of things to answer. And they really are an extraordinary, tough little bunch of birds. They are incredible the way they live in these very, very hostile environments. And they've got to deal with a cold climate and a flightless lifestyle. They can't just fly off and fly away somewhere. Although some of them do live in the tropics, but those tropical penguins are still living in the cold water currents that go up the coast of Australia, the coast of Southern Africa, as well as the Humboldt current, which goes up South America. So they're living in nutrient-rich cold water environments. So how many different species of penguin are there? I reckon there are about 18. And there aren't 18 different pictures up there, but it's just to give you an idea of the diversity of them and the size difference as well. And I mean, look at this rockhopper on the extreme right with the exuberant plumes off his head, and there are different sorts of plumed penguins. But I hate to put this picture in, but you know, some people do say, are penguins really birds? And actually penguins really are birds. They've got feathers and they fit into all the classification of a bird. So there we go. Somebody really did ask about penguins being birds. So what makes a penguin? They're flightless, highly specialized group of birds and molded by the environment. They're adapted to living in cold, whether it's land or sea, and they've got a very specific shape of the body, which when they're in the water is torpedo and streamlined. They've got long wings, just like birds have got long wings, but these we call flippers because they're using those wings to fly underwater, and they're using exactly the same methods as a bird would use to fly up in the air. They've got the short legs and they sit well back into the body, which gives them an upright stance, which makes their swimming a completely different physiological thing to the way an albatross or a duck swims. They're very different. Those webbed feet get tucked right underneath the tail and they use them as a rudder. They don't paddle with the feet like some of the other birds do. And they've got very well adapted eyes to be able to see underwater. So the physiology that they have developed in their bodies to withstand the low sea and land temperatures is something quite extraordinary. They've got a very dense subdermal layer of fat, and the circulatory adaptations to keep their flippers and the feet warm is very specialized. Their feathers too are very specialized to deal with the rough seas, the cold weather, the rocks, and a very, very long period of time when they're actually spending at sea, underwater, breathing out, and so on. And another thing that the penguins have kind of got really well adapted for is that they're able to fast. First of all, they need to fast while they're molting, and secondly, they need to fast while one of them is incubating the eggs and the other one is out fishing. Their bone structure is very different to the birds that fly. Their bones are sometimes fused, they're flattened and they're very heavy. And they're able to remain underwater for quite a while. And like albatrosses and petrels, which I didn't mention yesterday, they've got a very good sense of smell. So when you look at all the feathers of many, many different sorts of birds, they are very varied, and that's a little bunch of penguin feathers up there. So let's talk about, we'll call it a survival suit, which is what they use to keep themselves warm and dry. The feathers are very short, and you think, well, these are going to be long, great big feathers, and they're not. They're just about an inch long, little feathers. They're very stiff, and they've got quite a wide central vein which goes up, and that's what makes the suit of armor, because one feather lies on top of the other. Let's see. Sorry. And they're very densely packed. They're about 3 to 4 times that of a flying bird, because they don't need the feathers to be sparsely situated in the body. They're overlapping to keep them waterproof and dry and warm. The tips of the feathers are very coarse, and they're interlocking, so that's what sort of binds them all together. So that this rigid suit of feathers is a real, almost like a suit of armor, which is able to resist the compression when they're diving and to keep them dry and warm. So that's what the feathers look like. And if you, let me get this little red dotty thing here. And then you can see this vein that goes up the center is very thick, very strong, and that's what they overlap when they're all in one on top of the other. So they've got to keep the survival suit in tip-top shape. And they do this by preening, and the minute they're out of the water, they're preening, they're getting every little bit of feather all lying in exactly the right way that it should do. And for those areas that they can't reach around the head or the neck, the pair will preen each other. So they're always forever getting everything absolutely tip-top. And of course they've got to be waterproof, and how do they do that? They've got an oil gland, and they spread this oil over the feathers as well. And the other very big thing is that these penguins, like most of the seabirds, have to molt. Like the elephant seals, they molt every... Oh, excuse me. Now we can get on with it. I don't know what happened there. They molt every single year. So once they've brought up the chicks, and before the winter sets in, the adult penguins, as well as the chicks, all go into a molt situation. And all the feathers come out at once. I mean, no, not really all at once. The old feathers are being pushed out by the new feathers, so that they're not standing there bare naked, little penguins. I suppose it's a little bit like when your children get a loose tooth, the tooth falls out and the new one is right there ready to pop up. But this is a bit of a strange picture, but I just wanted to show you where the oil gland is, kind of like above the tail. So you very often see a headless penguin, where he's got his head right round the back, and he's getting a little bit of oil from this oil gland at the back that he can then gently spread out through the rest of his body to keep him beautifully dry in the water. And the feathers wear out. I mean, you could just think of the rough seas that these penguins live in. Danny, thank you. So they've got a very hard life to live in, with the rough seas, cold weather, ice, snow, pebbly beaches, and all that sort of thing. So they do need to get new feathers to cope with the winter season that's coming up. And the young chicks, before they go out to sea, they've got to have adult feathers. So they will also molt out of the soft, downy fluff, because for the first few weeks of the baby penguin's life, they are soft and downy and fluffy, and the feathers are not waterproof. So when they're swimming, they sort of hunch up the head into the shoulders, and off they go. They're just like a little torpedo. And I've already said about the wings being flat and they're flying in the water. And you can see the picture there very nicely, how the feet are tucked up under the tail and it's used to give them like a rudder to show them which way to go. And they have a third eyelid, like a lot of other birds do, which is in fact called a nictitating membrane, and it goes sideways across the eye, so that it covers the eye. It's completely transparent, and it just gives them excellent vision underwater at the same time as protecting the eye. And that's just a nice little picture of them flying through the water. And there, for instance, you can see the top bone is like a tern wing with a heavy fused wing bones of the penguin underneath. They really are very thick and very heavy. It also acts as a weight belt in a way, like we would use for diving, so that they've got that weight behind them. And the speeds they can swim at, the emperors can go up to 10 kilometers an hour. What's that, 14 miles per hour? I've made a mistake there. So the kings and the chin straps, which you've seen one chin strap, they can go up to about 5.3 miles per hour or 8.5 kilometers. The Adelies also can go pretty fast. And those of you that come from Australia know the fairy or the little blue penguin. And those are some of the speeds. I think that picture of the king penguin swimming down at the bottom there, you get all these owls going off behind them. It really is quite magnificent. But you know, although they're swimming, they can't breathe underwater. They've got to come out of the water to breathe fresh air. They don't have gills like fish. So what do? They pop out, heads out, and then they take in a deep breath, and we know it as porpoising. And this is one of the challenges of any photographer, is to get pictures like these of the penguins porpoising out of the water. It's very good for them to fly underwater, but then they've got to pop out, take a breath, and back they go. And we just have to have a little funny picture. Sorry about that. So, what about how deep do they dive? The gentoos. Now you saw the gentoos today, and that is the third largest of the penguins, and they can go right down to 70 meters, and they can stay down for 7 minutes or so. The gentoos, the ones that was the one chin strap, and the gentoos can go even deeper, and of course the emperors can go way down 500 meters, which is an awfully long way. And you think of how deep you can dive or go snorkeling, and these little birds can withstand that tremendous pressure. Now it was very interesting when we were watching those penguins on those slippery rocks and pebbles, and how do they keep their balance? Well, some of you said, why are they walking with their wings out? And that's for balance. But it's their feet that are so strong, and they've got those very, very sharp, big claws, which they use for balancing. And if you think of them getting onto the ice, that is really like having a whole lot of little crampons at the end of their toes. And if you look at the feet, you can see that they're just thick, scaly contraptions of coming out from the body. There's no feathers to keep them warm. So how come the feet don't freeze when they're in this icy cold water, or when they're just standing on the snow, standing on the ice? And they've got a very interesting heat exchange method, so that the arteries are surrounding the veins, so that when the cooled venous blood is traveling back up to the heart, it's warmed by the arteries that are going down, and it works very well. So, and they're also covered with these big thick scales, which is almost reminiscent of the evolution from the dinosaurs. And you also see that all the muscles are deep inside the body, and so the muscles are being protected, and so are all the ligaments and tendons that are actually working the feet are all warm and inside the body.